really realized there were a lot of things that we could do better. And so now it's just, how do we continue to move the profession forward? Because there's a lot of external influences happening in our world that are making the profession less relevant. And how do we own that CPA title and still be relevant? And then I just say like, fast forward to, you said that I have 600,000 followers. That's because I've been on Twitter for 8 years.
Hey guys, welcome to CPA Primetime. Today we have none other than the Radical CPA, Jody Padar. She's a top voice in the accounting space, thought leader, influencer, 600,000+ followers on LinkedIn, which is, that's radical to me, okay? And, she has many other accolades we can get into, but without further ado, I just kind of want to let her take the mic and tell you guys, you viewers, who she is, what she has not just started doing in the accounting industry, but has been doing in the accounting industry. So very excited to have her on. We also have Kelvin as a special guest here from a couple episodes ago, and he actually introduced the two of us. He introduced Jody and I. So you see how these business relationships can form better discussions in the accounting industry. You got to do what we're doing here. But without further ado, Jody, you have the floor. Tell the viewers at home your quick origin story. Who is Jody Padar and where are you now?
Sure. So it's so funny because I'm Jody Padar, the Radical CPA, and I actually run a firm, and a lot of people don't always get that, right? So I have a small firm based in Chicago, and I say small, meaning small in number of people, but we're actually extremely mighty, and we compete against mid-sized firms because of our technical expertise, as well as the way we utilize technology to actually do work. So we may be small in people, but we're big on technology, and we're actually currently even using AI and bots in our firm, which is pretty cool. And then I'm an author. The Radical CPA is my first book. From Success to Significance is my second book. And really those are about the journey to the cloud and really defining what a new business model for CPA firms is, because I was an early adopter and an innovator, and I changed my firm completely different than old school firms. And nobody told me that it was called actually inventing a business model, right? I didn't know that. I just did what I was supposed to do. And then most recently, I've joined BotKeeper as an accounting ambassador and bot advisor. And that's basically taking my love for the profession and helping it transform by utilizing AI and machine learning and bots to run your firm better. So think of it as cloud next level. And truly, everyone asks me like why I do what I do. And my why comes back to really changing the profession, because old school firms work a bazillion hours a week, and they don't take care of their young, and they don't really train CPAs to do what they should do. Instead, they just work them like workhorses. And as a young mother, and this is now going 13 years, I wasn't given kind of the opportunities that I thought I should have had. So I left a mid-sized firm after a really bad tax season and said, I can do it better. And I learned a lot, and I realized those partners weren't as dumb as I thought they were, because obviously I've evolved with them, but I really realized there were a lot of things that we could do better. And so now it's just, how do we continue to move the profession forward? Because there's a lot of external influences happening in our world that are making the profession less relevant. And how do we own that CPA title and still be relevant? And then I just say like, fast forward to, you said that I have 600,000 followers. That's because I've been on Twitter for 8 years. So like, I was one of the early social media adopters when nobody was on, and I was a woman with a blog who just had a lot to say, and people connected to it. And so that's how I grew my followership. So I always say too, don't let where you are and what you do stop you from taking on the world, because with the internet, if you're just a blogger, you can actually take over. So That was more than probably
Right.
2 minutes, but
No, completely fine. Completely fine. And look, I mean, a lot of things were said in there that the viewers can just take and run with, right? What would you say, before we get into some of the more marketing aspects, what would you say are some of your favorite ways that you're impacting the space?
wow. So my favorite way of impacting the space is that 8 years ago when I began, I was, I don't want to say a nobody, but truly I was a woman with a blog, and people tried to push me down. They weren't interested in what I had to say. They knew more because they had not really realized what social would do. And then they realized that I could get more followers than them and become more important, more, not more important, but more relevant than them,
Yeah.
right? And so now what I've seen happen is those same people who pushed me down, who didn't want to give me a voice because they were in the power, we've created this movement and this uprising, and now I'm considered one of them. And so I think it's really, it's really, I guess, humbling for me to see now that I'm up here with them. But on the other side of it, don't think that I don't forget that that those were some of the leaders who tried to shut my voice. And now they're like, oh my God, how can we help her? And the reason they want me now is because they know that my followers have impact, right? So, you know, they realize that they've become less relevant. So it's an interesting thing. And you have to, from a business perspective, you have to like kind of get over it. But like I said, I may be over it, but I haven't forgotten it.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I think you're very unique, Jody, because what I've noticed is that a lot of CPAs, they don't even believe in marketing. They get most of their business from referrals. There's nothing wrong with referrals. We love referrals, but referrals is kind of like a passive activity.
Totally.
So why is it that you've bought into marketing and you're all in on it, whereas most CPAs are like, you know what, they'll take it or leave it?
So I think what it was is, you know, when I started my firm 13 years ago, or I actually joined my dad, but his was a small 1040 practice, and I really built it into the firm it is today. He didn't let me be technical. He said to me, go find your own clients or go find your own customers. So I was forced into learning how to do business development. Too many CPAs who have grown up in these mid-sized firms, they've never had to eat what they kill. They've never had to figure out how to build a business, how to sell to customers, how to find customers. And it's not their fault. They just haven't been taught. They haven't been trained because the old school firm owners, usually there's one rainmaker and everybody else is a worker bee, right? And they never were given the opportunity to really learn how to market and sell. So, and marketing and selling, you just need a little confidence, right? You just need to do it once and do it twice, and then you build that muscle, and then all of a sudden it just becomes second nature. And I think it's really a disservice that we do to the profession because we focus on the technical all the time, and we don't really teach them how to build a business.
Yeah. And you do a lot of speaking as well. When we first met,
Right.
I was so impressed with you. We were both speaking at the accounting and finance show at the Jacob Javits Convention Center. And I feel like right when I got off stage, you pulled me in the corner for like an impromptu video. I was like, who is this lady? She's unbelievable. Are you just bold and courageous and you just go after it? Is that why people love you?
So that's evolved too, right? When I, like, obviously when the more you do something, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
But now I've realized too, as an entrepreneur, that if you don't ask questions, then you're never going to learn, because I have nobody teaching me. I have to find my own information, and I have to figure out how to learn things myself. And so I think what happens is when you get put in that position, all of a sudden you become more of a seeker as opposed to just like listening to the guy in the cube next to you, because you can't. If you don't figure it out, nobody's going to figure it out for you. Plus, I like to meet people, right? And I guess that's the other piece of it, right? At the end of the day, like, I am that rainmaker. That's my personality. That's who I am. But I love to meet interesting people, and I love to make friends. It's not even about like doing business. It's truly about building this network of friends, because they've totally helped me with my business from a technical standpoint. I mean, like, think about it. Again, I'm an itty bitty firm, but I have tax experts in top 100 firms that I can pick up the phone and call and get help with, like with my own stuff. And that network is exponential. And that's the piece of social media that people don't get, because they think it's all about like marketing. And it's really not. It's about learning and professional development. And then, like anything else, if you connect with people, you help each other out with what you're good at, what you're not good at. And, you know, and too, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, well, why would I talk to someone at a top 100 firm? Well, guess what? There are top 100 firms who have clients that don't fit in top 100 firms, and they're happy to refer stuff down, and then we can refer stuff up. So, you know, people just don't get that.
Exactly.
And it's part of living in a global world as well, right? Because we live in a global world now, which wasn't like it, you know, 13 years ago when I started. It was just starting, right?
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't think a lot of the new entrepreneurs necessarily cherish or have the context of working pre-2010, pre-2008, right? And I mean, just the tools now that they can use to grow their business. And I'm lagging here a bit, but no, completely fine. The tools that they have now to grow their business, it's just like, it exposes the true power of word of mouth. And so I'm sure that, you know, if it's happening for my clients and it's happening for me, who we're just not there yet in terms of followers, in terms of awareness, we're not on top, right? We're not Jody Padar out there yet. I mean, I'm sure by word of mouth, insane things and insane opportunities have just been almost handed to you or even surprised you. So can you talk about that? Some of the cool opportunities that you were just completely surprised about, some of those.
So, yeah. So, you know, I don't know where to start. And the reason I don't know how to start is because when you start putting yourself out there and you start, the people who get you attract to you. And every time I think I did something like at a pinnacle, like something tops it. And then I'm like, oh my God, but how did that happen, right? And so it just amazes me to like, all right, so let's go back 8 years when I was competing against KPMG Global and my itty bitty firm in Mount Prospect for an account in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? I mean, think about that. That's sick. Right? Like that doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. And I was at the same table with KPMG Global, right? And it was a foreign entity coming from the UK, billion-dollar company. They were looking for a small local firm to do it. They didn't like anyone they found in Charlotte. They got to me via social. And again, think about it, this is like 2008, well, whatever. It was 8 years ago, whatever. So 2010, whatever. And I was competing about that. So and to me, that was when I really understood what social could do, right? Like I was like, oh my God, how is this happening, right? Fast forward to every week, I'm getting calls from people to do things with exponential opportunities, either to connect to my followers, which whatever, I'm an influencer, I get that, but even to go beyond that, right? Like business opportunities, just crazy stuff that at almost it's an overwhelming experience for me. That's just like, you know, you have to say no more than you say yes, right? So that's the stuff that now comes through. So billion-dollar tech or they're not even they're a financial services company. Reached out to me through an agency about paying for tweets or LinkedIn posts, right? That's crazy, right? Yeah. You know, nothing ever evolved out of it, but when I think of that power, it like whatever, it's crazy, right? And then I got Kelvin like all over it, and he's like, "Hey, Jody, we're gonna do something," and I'm like, "Totally, we are." So
Yeah.
So Jody, you interact with a lot of entrepreneurs, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs out there, either from your experience as a CPA or your experience as a marketer? What would you tell entrepreneurs, CEOs out there? What are your gems, your words of wisdom for them?
So I think, I don't know if you saw my recent blog about how I recently joined BotKeeper. So they're a new startup. They're funded by Google, and everyone asked how I got the position that I did. And I said, I asked. And I would have never asked 13 years ago when I was working in an old school firm. I would have been too shy, too like afraid. And what I've learned is all I can do is say no. I mean, whatever. So it happened. So, and so I think that's the thing as an entrepreneur, that you just have to get beyond yourself and ask. And if they say no, they say no, but keep moving, right? Because I think too many times we stop ourselves because we think, I don't know, that they're going to think bad about us, or that like, well, I wouldn't ask for that. And I've gotten to the point where now I just ask. If it's no, it's no, whatever, move on. And I think it gets easier when you do enough marketing, that you have enough stuff coming in, that you, again, have the choice to take opportunities or not. And I think that's what CPAs mess up, because CPAs don't have a good funnel. So they get stuck taking all the yucky clients because they need to make a living, as opposed to actually getting good clients and being able to choose who they want to work with. And I think that's the thing that people don't get about marketing, is if you have a strong marketing funnel, and if you have a strong lead gen, you can pick who you want to work with. You don't have to take the jerk because he's the only one who's going to give you money to pay your bills. And I think that was something that I had to learn over the course of building a business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how do you feel about LinkedIn? What advice would you give to people who are trying to grow their LinkedIn, but they want to grow it with authentic, like, potential clients? You know, they want to grow it the right way. What advice would you give them?
So be you, whatever that is. You know, I posted the other day something about being weird. Let your weirdness shine, because you'll attract the other weirdos. And I think, especially in professional services, or people are going to attract to you, the right people are. So if you're trying to be somebody you're not, it doesn't matter. Like, don't be somebody else. Post relevant and information, but also put your own spin to it, because nobody just wants to read all this reposting stuff. People want commentary on it. They want to understand your positioning on it. And you don't have to write a whole big blog post, but you do need to put a stance there. And if you put a stance there, then people connect to you, not the content. And I think that's the biggest thing is how do you be you with whatever you is.
Yeah.
Right.
And CPAs don't like that, right? CPAs are very guarded. They're, you know, they have to be this professional image, and, you know, I broke the mold. And again, the reason I work is because I'm all me all the time. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I never fit into that mold before. And I don't want to. Like, I can put black pants on and get dressed up and be in a boardroom if I need to, but that's not who I am every day.
Yeah.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I think just from interacting with my clients who are CPAs, and a lot of them, many of them, new entrepreneurial CPAs that are having to make a lot of sales calls, that are having to do a lot of asking, they're starting to realize and come to me and say, hey, Juan, like, you're right. The more you do it, it's about confidence. It's the confidence thing. I didn't feel like this before, but now, like, let's go. Let's start making, I'm going to send you as many videos as I can, right? I am going to call them back and follow up, right? Or like I just had a client basically say, I mean, you know what? His mindset coming from a traditional firm, he just sees what's possible now online, right? What is possible I think that is a place that many CPAs have to get to versus looking in the mirror with too much judgment on themselves, right? So it's almost like I wouldn't even call myself an extrovert. Another accountant probably would, but it's not that I'm an extrovert. It's just that I understand that I have to connect with people. And when, hey, the camera's on, I have to talk. Or Jody, when she's on stage, she has to give an awesome speech, right? Even though when she's working in her actual day-to-day, you know, I don't know how your day-to-day looks, but I love to work in the peace and quiet. And I love to switch it up. Sometimes I have really loud music on when I'm working, but I don't talk to people just all the time. It's a big part of what I do, but it's like a switch almost. And so that's where I'm seeing a lot of CPAs start to win, is that they realizing the opportunity is then helping them kind of step on stage, so to speak, right? So one question I do want to ask here based on that is, do you have any sort of jitters when you get on stage, on a big stage, like at the accounting conference, right? Or anything like that? A show, people they want to do interviews, live streaming you. How do you feel?
No, so I had the best training. So when I first started my firm, I started teaching at the community college. And so when you learn how to teach, I was on stage every other night, right? Teaching tax. I was teaching tax 244. And you learn how to handle questions, right? And when you're in the classroom, it doesn't matter because you're the teacher student. And so that was the best training. So for 5 years, I taught as an adjunct professor. And so now, like, just being up there and I'm just teaching. So it doesn't bother me at all. You know, do I get nervous? It depends on who the audience is, but now it's just kind of like, okay. And I think too, the other thing is if you're well prepared, it doesn't matter. I mean, again, you can't just, now that I've been doing what I've been doing for long enough, I know where I'm coming from, right? But if you're prepared, it's not a problem, right? It's when you're not prepared that all of a sudden stuff, and again, it's a muscle, right? Again, if you're interviewing people, I had a podcast for 2 years. Once you get into that routine, that very first podcast, I was terrified. Now it's like, whatever. And the other thing I think that's just really cool that people forget about, and this is what my publisher told me, he goes, content is content. Not all content has to be perfect content. And I think we get caught in perfection, and people move on, especially, right? Like they watch it, it was good, it was bad. You don't have to have this like perfect piece every time.
Exactly.
People don't care. They really don't.
Yeah,
so like, and that's the thing that I think CPAs, again, they get caught in, is that perfection that, you know, that's part of their DNA, right? And so, like, when I first started tweeting, all the CPAs wouldn't tweet because they're like, what if there's a misspelling? Do you know how many misspellings I have in my tweets? You just move on, right? And it moves so fast, nobody cares. But I think as CPAs, we don't think like that, and it trips us up because we think it has to be perfect. But if you're a publisher, he doesn't care. He wants to sell, right? He's selling content. So he just needs you to produce content. He'll sell whatever it is, right?
Right.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. And I would say that when it comes to speaking, no one really wants you to be perfect anyway. Perfect is totally boring. When you're trying to remember exactly what you think they want you to say, you could become so robotic that you're making yourself nervous. It's like you're not being yourself. That's why you're uncomfortable. But one of the things that I love, that nervous energy that comes from doing something important. It could be a speech, a big meeting. Your body, your brain is telling your body that you're about to do something big, something important. So it's giving you more energy. Your heart rate's going up. You might be feeling a little bit warm. But that's your body giving you more energy. So you need to use that nervous energy to deliver a dynamic speech. that is entertaining and full of energy. Use the energy instead of trying to control the energy.
Right.
When you try to control the energy, your hand starts going like this. You're trying to control you got to just go with it. Have some fun.
Yeah, and I'll comment on that too real quick. Like, so many CPAs or accountants, I mean, I was an accountant. I come from the accounting industry. They would stop this interview and do it another day just because Juan Garcia, the host, I have bad Wi-Fi today and it's raining over here and it's lagging. Okay, we got to do it again. We got to get coordinated all over, right? No, let's record it and put it out. So
put it out.
No,
put it out.
I love what you said. And just to flip the script, Kelvin, I noticed that you had a lunch or breakfast or something with the CEO of Omnicom. So that in itself is that's almost like being on stage. Oh my God, that's a big moment too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always on the move. It was important to meet with a lot of interesting people in there. One of the heads of one of their divisions was there. It wasn't the global CEO, but it was definitely a good friend, powerful guy, and there's 6 other powerful guys in the room, and they're all super impressive. And let me tell you, none of them were trying to be perfect.
Right.
They were all just being themselves. They had the confidence. They had the swagger. I mean, they even looked great. I mean,
yeah.
I think part of it is like, if you feel like you look great and you've told yourself before you leave the house, like, I'm looking good, like, I just feel better, you know? I feel more like I'm going to win. Like, I'm like, this is going to work.
Love it. Yeah. Love it. Okay, Jody. Okay, so looking into the future, it's 2019 right now. I mean, you have a firm there that has changed and adapted and revolutionized, right? I mean, going into I feel like people, I definitely look at decades in pieces, right? I feel like people tried to go into the decade, you know, doing something very special. What are you excited about going into the 2020s here?
So really artificial intelligence and machine learning. Like, I mean, cloud is so yesterday, and I know like so many CPAs still haven't even adopted cloud, but when you really look at the new tech that's coming out, it just makes cloud irrelevant because you don't have to, like, it's game changing, right? And it's moving so much faster. I mean, I spent the last decade trying to get people onto the cloud, and I'm looking at AI and it just moves. And so my thing is to continue to impact the profession and to help the profession evolve with the tech. Because if they don't, they're going to be left behind. And again, that's my passion. I don't want these CPAs to be left behind. And they're going to have to reskill themselves, retool themselves, figure it out. And the ones that get it will learn and evolve, and the ones that don't won't. But like, I would like to be that Sherpa to help them climb that mountain and help them adopt to the new technologies that are coming, because it's really cool. I mean, when you see the stuff that's happening, it's like, wow, I don't have to do a bank rec ever again. Thank God for that. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like, I don't know why some CPAs or some offices are not necessarily getting it, that they can start automating things, automating processes. I don't know if it's that they like to hold on to doing it themselves.
No, they're making money.
What do you think it is?
So what it is they're making money. The partners have bad retirement plans that have locked them into a broken business model, and they're just counting their days till they retire, and they're not willing to invest in the future, and they're going to be the way of Blockbuster. And the smart kids, and they're not even kids, the smart professionals are jumping ship and starting their own firms. So, and the big firms are getting bigger, and the small firms will be small, but the ones in the middle, they're going to be obliterated. And it's sad because they have beautiful businesses. But if you're a business owner and you're teaching other business owners, you're a CPA, and you're supposed to be an advisor, and you haven't looked at your own business, what's wrong with that picture? Do you deserve it? Yeah. I don't know. What's wrong with that picture?
So, Jody, let me throw this out to you this way. So I challenge CPAs who can't figure out how to have a marketing budget. How are they going to help me with my budget if they can't even figure out how to put marketing into their budget?
Yeah.
Like,
R&D, you get a tax credit for it. Why don't CPA firms have an R&D budget?
yeah,
How are they ever going to be innovative?
why is every CPA firm broke and they have no marketing budget?
Because they pull the money out themselves. Come on, they're at the end of the day, they're greedy professionals who want to make money off the backs of their employees. Did I just say that? But no, I mean that's the way I felt, right? That's the way I felt. I was working 60 hours a week, and they were billing me out at X per hour. They didn't want me to improve anything because that was gonna hurt their profit margin. So, because if you're more efficient, then you can't bill as much per hour. So unless you change your pricing model, nobody's going to get more efficient. So again, but, I think now they're starting to open their eyes and move. At least I hope so. And I think part of it too is the boomer generation. They're starting to retire and or die. So like the next gen just needs to step up. And again, they need to lead because they've been pushed down for so long that I think a lot of the Gen Xers don't know how to lead because they were never given the opportunity. They were never grown to lead, right? Which is sad, right? Again, think about it. An old legacy firm never grew its staff to be the next generation leaders. And then they say, oh, well, we have no one for succession. Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? They have to get bought, or that person who feels stifled says, I'm out of here. I'm going to start my own firm, and it's very easy to do. There isn't that infrastructure stuff that you used to have to really need resources to start. I mean, seriously, open a web page and start a firm. I mean, truly, like everything's self-service now. Accounting, you don't have to buy these big systems. You could do everything one piece at a time. You can do a lot of side work. You don't need the infrastructure. You just need actually a desire to build a firm today, to start your own firm. And I think that's a good thing.
That's a real good thing. Like I just can't believe for me, I'm not even I'm building firms through marketing, but I left PricewaterhouseCoopers, turned around the next week. Awesome. Turned around the next week and started a marketing firm that historically hasn't been as hard, but you could do the same with an accounting firm now. You really could. So if you could please just speak some truth to the context of what you've been able to experience in the professional space of, okay, here's how it looked in 2008, but here are the new opportunities, guys. Like, wake up. And then, I mean, the ones who realize the opportunities, like you said, you got me with that one word. It's the desire, because the tools are here, right? So, I mean, tell us, like, how easy is it now? Really, how easy compared to 10, 15 years ago?
So I think when you look at it from a tool space, like you don't have to buy these huge tools to get started, right? Like you can start with one QuickBooks Online account. You can start with even like ProTax or whatever, some of these tax softwares, or you can do them one at a time, right? I think the big thing again is having the confidence to say, I have a skill set. I'm willing to learn as I go, because you're not going to know everything. And again, I think that's one of the things that hampers CPAs. They want everything to be perfect. They want to know everything. And as an entrepreneur, there's no way you can know everything. And it isn't. And the good thing too is I think as you build your own business, you add way more value to your customers because you've sat in their shoes and you can help them navigate their own issues. Because I work in the small business space, 0 to 10 million. And quite honestly, most of their problems are not financial in nature. They're truly relationship, human resources. Yeah, they need to understand the financials, but usually the questions they're coming to me with are more leadership than anything else. And it isn't until you've sat in that place and understand it that you can really become that most trusted advisor, I believe, or have experience in being taught those rules, right? So we've been very good about teaching, or I'll say I have been about training my team to learn how to react to those kinds of questions versus in an old school firm, only the partner talks at that level. The young staff and team don't have very little interaction. My very first firm, I was not allowed to answer the phone for the first 18 months. What's wrong with that picture? Right, because the partner they were protective, right? The partner, but guess what? If you don't teach your team how to answer the phone, well, how are you going to grow them?
I'm pretty sure you could have handled answering the phone. I mean,
so that was my first mid-sized firm. I have to tell you, my very first. So I was at So people don't realize this because I never talk about it. When I worked at PW, my very first job out of college. And it was not a good experience. It was the most awful year of my life, and that's why I've chosen to kind of black it out. But I actually worked in tax technology, and so like tech is kind of in my bones, but I was support. So I was actually that person who used to pick up the phone when you're like, your software isn't working. I was the one who had to figure it out. I had no tax experience. I had no technology experience, but I was at PW and I had to answer the phone. So it was the worst year of my life, but let me tell you, I learned how to field questions. I learned how to solve problems. I learned a ton. It was just the worst year of my life. So, and that was before the C. That shows you how old I am, right? So, 1994, 95.
I picked up on that.
Love it.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. So, hey, we're at the end of the hour here. How much time do you guys have?
I'm good if you're good. You can tell me when we're ready.
Yeah. I think last time we did this one, we had like a lightning round where we got like a bunch of sound bites. I'm a sound bite guy. I don't really listen to hour-long things. You gotta make sure we get some sound bites.
Exactly.
Lightning round going.
Exactly. I real quick, I just actually had a client ask me if he should post a 2-hour interview that he did for his podcast. Look, check this out though. He said the same thing as you, like, nobody is going to listen to the 2-hour interview, right? Like, I get that. Like, the professionals aren't. But I've had people tell me I have one interview, I think, that went 2 hours. They tell me, like, they listen to it over a week or listen to it over 3 days. Back to you, what you just said, Kelvin, like, I don't necessarily record all this for YouTube, even though the entire interview is on YouTube. I want thousands and thousands of views on the sound bites.
Right.
That's how you get the best stuff. So no, okay. Let's go here. Quick fire round. I think a lot of CPAs out there, I know some of my clients are definitely interested in speaking engagements and things like that. How would you say that you started getting those, right? Outside of just asking, because I would encourage, CPAs to just ask too as well. But how would you say you get those traction or?
So I'm a little bit different in that my audience is other professionals. It's not necessarily small business owners. So depending on who you want to serve, first of all, make sure you're speaking in front of the right audience. And then at the beginning, you're just going to speak for free. Anyone asks, you speak, you stand up, you do it. And then as you get better and better, and as you kind of build that speaking resume, then you'll get more opportunities. And so some of them you submit and become an expert in something, whatever it is, just be an expert in that thing. I mean, that's basic thought leadership, but like if you want to, whatever your niche is, become an expert in it and then go to that place and go to the places where they want speakers and go volunteer to speak or not speak, or just go there.
Right. And that actually reminds me of something I saw you post on LinkedIn. It's that your daughter is writing, right, for a publication. I didn't really see which one it was, but speak a little bit about that, because like that reminds me, okay, make a name for yourself in the space. So your daughter is actually doing that.
Yeah, so she doesn't want to end up in accounting, believe me, but so she's actually a writer. But and again, too, I always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. So like anything else, she has lots of accomplishments. She's a brilliant journalist, but talk to my network, and she applied, and they came to her and said, hey, your mom's always talking about you, and so she got an internship. So I mean, she's pretty stoked, and she edits some of my stuff too, so she has experience.
Awesome.
But again, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that network is going to bring you opportunities, and then it's your choice how you're going to, act on those opportunities.
Love it. And then women in business, women in accounting, women in entrepreneurship. I noticed that post you made where you said, your daughter looked at the iPad, the decisions in the room were made by, the young woman in the room with the iPad. So can you speak a little bit to that? Women in business.
Yeah. So it's changing, but it's not changing fast enough. I was in an innovation roundtable that I'm part of with all the CTOs, CIOs of Chicago, and it's me and 17 men in a room. Seriously.
Wow.
And, all I can say is you have to be yourself, and if you're yourself, the right doors are going to open and you're going to be put in the right places. And maybe this is me being, not to say that women shouldn't go for things, but I don't think they should go for things that don't fit them. So if you don't fit in, don't try and make yourself fit in. Find the people who accept you for who you are and be there and lead there. Because if you try to fit in somewhere, you're not going to be happy once you get there anyways. So I think that's just from a leadership perspective, kind of what I've learned in my own, in my own experience, that I can be somebody else, but that's not where I want to be anyways. So maybe that's not the right place for me to be. And so be who you are, and you'll get to the right places.
Interesting. Love it. Do you want to go ahead and ask a quick question, Kelvin?
Well, I would say that when you're talking about women and business, I got to just get this statement out there. I feel like women are better, and I think men sometimes just talk about being better, and women are actually better.
Interesting.
Hey, that's what the guy from Shark Tank says. He invests in all those women entrepreneurs, Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
We got to get him on.
Exactly.
The reason why I say it is because I even see it at the youngest ages. So my son is 13, going on 14. But my daughter is like 11 going on 21. It's insane. But he is so advanced, socially, and able to be comfortable in his own skin. And my daughter is, achieving very well, but she's very much a perfectionist. And everything has to be just right. And he's like, it doesn't even have to be half right. I think that sometimes goes with us and stays with us for a long time. But I think, Jody, I think you broke that mold. You're totally like, let's go.
Well, and I think what's interesting is when you look at women leaders, most of them jump out to jump back in. They're not raised in CPA firms. Like all the women partners who I know, most of them started their own businesses and then got acquired by bigger firms. They weren't grown within those bigger firms, which is interesting to me. So I think it's like, Sheryl Sandberg says, lean in. I say jump out and then get back, right? Because you're never going to get it inside. You're going to have to grow it yourself, to figure it out yourself, and then get acquired. The other thing that I think is really important for women leaders to hear, and I think sometimes it's because it's not the traditional career path that a guy is going to have, that it's okay to be a lattice and to move up as opposed to going straight up, right? So there's times in your life, it's just reality, when you're going to have children, where it may not be your number one priority to do that next level. It's okay to step back, let things happen a little bit, and then jump back in. And I think sometimes that's not given as an opportunity. And so then people think that they can't do it at all. And I think, again, it's more like a lattice. So I started my firm when my children were young so that I could have the flexibility that I needed. And now my daughter's at college, and now I'm ready to go way back in. And again, and as my mother would say, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Yeah, very, very true. No, I can't even begin to understand that struggle of, I mean, that's been a long conversation of, okay, well, I'm a woman. I'm going to have kids this year, right? It's something that we talked about in PricewaterhouseCoopers and, the women becoming partners, things like that. Well, she's going to have to take a year off, right? Don't people telling them don't have kids, right? And look, I mean, I think everyone should be thinking about, well, hey, how can I structure my life around what I actually want versus what some partner says, what some partner tells me, right? Or what anyone else wants. And I think, it's 100% acceptable to take a step back no matter who you are. Like, what are you doing after you've taken that step back, though? I mean, when I quit PricewaterhouseCoopers to start this, I sort of knew it was going to work. I wouldn't have quit if I didn't have the confidence for it to work. Yeah. But that was about a 3 to 4 month step back in terms of income for me. Right. That's not as drastic as something like, what I will be experiencing in the future, like having kids, raising a family, being there for my family. But for me, I just to get this out there, I decided to, work all the time right now so that, I can have a pretty solid schedule in my 30s. But yeah.
And I think too, you have to have that supportive partner, right? So don't think that my husband hasn't sacrificed a lot to let me have my entrepreneurial journey, right? I mean, he had the steady job, he had the benefits to allow us to do what I could do, right? So it truly becomes a joint effort, right? It's not all one, and part of it's just what's important to you at that time, right? And again, there are a lot of people who can do it all and do that straight line, but who's their partner, and what's their partner giving up so that they can do it, or how are they managing it together? Because it's you can't do it all, especially when you have kids and a family and whatever.
I feel like even if you could do it all,
do you want to do it all?
Really? Like, sometimes you just want to chill, and just, I don't know, like more me time. But at the end of the day, think about it like this. Not being able to pay your bills, that's not fun, that at all. But once you're paying your bills and each incremental dollar is that you're chasing is not giving you that incremental happiness, but at the same time, why do you want to become a partner? Like, what is, what?
No, and I think it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? That's the other thing that people don't think about. I'm an overnight success that took 13 years, right? Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Very few overnight successes. It's a lot of building. A lot of building, a lot of learning, a lot of opportunities, a lot of mistakes, a ton of mistakes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So look, while I want this to be an awesome interview, right? Get your brand out there, Jody. I also want it to be valuable for the listeners, which mostly are entrepreneurial accountants, entrepreneurial CPAs, right? That are just not where you are at, Jody. So if you could speak to some of the, big mistakes that you learned from, right? That you just, you're kind of, at this point, you're kind of glad you made them and learned from them. If you wouldn't mind speaking on that.
So I think part of the problem with being an entrepreneur is the squirrel factor, right? Like what's shiny and new at the time, right? So like, where do you put your focus? And there's lots of exciting stuff around you. And how do you keep your focus on what's going to pay your bills versus going down these rabbit holes? And I think that's the biggest thing with entrepreneurs is they get caught in the rabbit holes, right? The other thing is I am truly a visionary. I am truly all over the place. I'm creative. A lot of people, my right hand and my left foot is an absolute executor, and we clash all the
Right.
time, but we know together we make it, right? So to find that person, she was my first hire, to find that person who can compliment you and know that you're not going to agree, but to be okay with that. Because there's lots of days we'll fight and the next day everything's fine. But if I didn't have her telling me that's not going to work, I guarantee I would be off the rails. So you need to find that person who's going to help control you, and you need to really focus on where your focus should be, because that's just part of the entrepreneurial DNA.
Love
That's
it. Love it.
That's important because a lot of people try to hire people like them. You don't want a bunch of people like you around, because if everyone's like you, there's going to be a lot of conflict, you know?
Right.
You need someone that's not like you.
Yeah.
That does the things that you don't want to do, and vice versa.
The other thing that I think that I did when I was very like early in leadership was my dad, he was part of the firm at that time, and he used to say that I manage by consensus. Well, that doesn't work. So you can't lead by consensus.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that I had to learn, that, you know, at the end of the day, it's my company, it's my business, and it's my decision, and the people who are following you want you to make those decisions. That's why they're not leaders, because they don't want to make those decisions. And I think that's a hard thing for people who start their own businesses to learn, because they want to be collaborative and they want to do all these things. But at the end of the day, that doesn't, I don't want to say even pay the bills, but that doesn't make the entity go where it needs to go, right? That doesn't follow the journey. It just kind of makes for a collaborative chaos.
Interesting. No, some nuggets there. Very, very valuable gems. I only have one more question. Kelvin, do you have anything before I ask it?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jody, for being you. I think you're an inspiration. I think you're way ahead of your time as far as where I think the world is going. And I think you're going to win and eat a lot of people's lunch.
Yeah.
Let's do this. 2019 is our year. And Juan, with the final question, let's go.
All right, Jody. So all that for this. Look, accounting is great for us. Business, entrepreneurship is great. But at the end of the day, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want your legacy to be 100 years from now?
Oh, that's a hard question.
That's the question. That's the question.
Final question. Let's go.
So you're going to laugh, but I want to change the world. It sounds so like out there, but I want every CPA to have essentially changed their business model so that the next generation of CPAs isn't treated the way I was treated when they graduated from school. Now, I think things might change as a whole in general, but if you were to say from a professional standpoint, that's what I would like, right? And I would say then from a personal standpoint, it's just to have happy, healthy kids who do what they want, like who are successful in being who they are and what they want to do.
Love it. Love it. Perfect way to end the interview. I'm going to go ahead and link Jody's information below. Follow her on everything I link. Great content coming out from her pages. So get in contact with her, interact with her too, learn from her. Great interview, Jody, and thank you so much for making the time to join the interview.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Be good.